Thank you very much. Please sit. Good evening to you, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I have the greatest pleasure of welcoming you all to the 2025 University of Ghana Alumni Lecture. The Alumni Lectures are held by or organized by the University of Ghana Alumni Association in collaboration with the University of Ghana. And today we have yet another opportunity to sit at the feet of one of our distinguished alumni, Mr. Alex Apaodade, who is the chairman of KGL Group. I think he deserves a round of applause. It's always a pleasure to have our own come back and share knowledge with us. This evening, as you are aware, he'll be speaking to us on the topic, Public-Private Partnership, a case study of responsible corporate citizenship. I shall now invite the chairman of the University of Ghana Alumni Association, Mrs. Doris Kisiwa Ansah, to deliver the welcome and introductory remarks. Please let's welcome her with a round of applause.
Mr. Alex Apaodade, Executive Chair of KGL Group, our speaker for today. Vice Chancellor, Professor Nana Abba Apiamfo, Pro-Vice Chancellors, Madam Registrar, Ministers of State, members of the Diplomatic Corps, Nananom, faculty and members, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, fellow alumni, council members, students of the University of Ghana, teachers and students of Presbyterian Boys Senior High School and Achimota School. Good evening. On behalf of the Council of the Alumni Association of the University of Ghana, I welcome you all to the 37th Annual Alumni Lecture. Thank you most sincerely for making time to honor our invitation. The chairman for today's lecture is no other person but the Vice Chancellor of our prestigious and premier university, Professor Nana Abba Apiamfo, a woman of resilience. The Alumni Lecture, since its inception in 1974, have hosted lecturers amongst alumni of the university, addressing various topics spanning governance, science and technology, education, business, to mention a few. This lecture seeks to highlight issues that directly impact the body politics of this nation. Our distinguished lecturers have included Emeritus Professor George Bene, 1981, Dr. Mrs. Mary Chinrihesi, the present Chancellor of this prestigious university, in 1992, Dr. Mrs. Sylvia Womansaboy, 1998. She delivered the Golden Jubilee Lecture, UG at 50, and is also the matriarch of the Alumni Council. She is the eldest member of the Alumni Council, and she has her name at the Register General. So please put your hands together for her. She deserves it. And then in 1923, we were privileged to have Dr. Tony Otinjesi give us the lecture. If you look into your brochures, you will find the various lecturers on page 11. Last year, we were privileged to have Right Honorable Ivan Sumana Kingsford Babin, Speaker of Parliament, on the topic, 30 years of parliamentary democracy, the journey thus far. The Speaker, in collaboration with the Alumni Council, has sponsored one hotspot comfort zone which will be officially commissioned at the end of this month. Most grateful to you, sir. He's not here, but when he comes, we'll have to acknowledge that he has sponsored something. He will be coming. We're expecting him. Today's lecture surely will be stimulating and thought-provoking. The topic, public-private partnership, a case study of responsible corporate citizenship. And our speaker is Mr. Alex Apaldade Jr., Executive Chair of KGL Group, a business leader and philanthropist. His father, Alex Apaldade Sr., was a renowned educationist. I'm sure the older ones in the audience would remember him. A former headmaster of Akuapema Secondary School and Achimota School. A.A. Daddy also served on the University of Ghana Council, representing CHAS. I am happy to announce that Mr. Dade Jr., the gentleman sitting here, is sponsoring an Eco Haven Garden for the alumni on the premises of our Alumni Center. This Eco Haven Garden is an ideal place for seminars and conferences, mentorship programs, and all other social activities. Sword cutting was done last week, Thursday, 30th October. Alex, thank you so much. God bless you. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the Alumni Association has over the years undertaken various projects in support of the infrastructure development on the university campus. I would now like you to sit back for just 3 minutes and watch a video showcasing alumni projects so far. Please sit back and enjoy the video. Video man, we're waiting. Is the video ready, please? Anyway, I'll just highlight some of the projects.
The University of Ghana Alumni Association, UGAA, was reconstituted in 1998. As alumni, our mission is to support and enhance our alma mater, building upon the foundations we encountered during our time there. Over the years, the University of Ghana Alumni Association has made significant contributions to the university. For instance, during the university's 50th anniversary, we played a crucial role in constructing Jubilee Hall, which addressed accommodation challenges on campus. While the first phase of Jubilee Hall is complete, we are actively seeking sponsorship and funding to complete the second phase. Furthermore, we've shown our commitment to the university's well-being by establishing the Mothers Wing at the Legon Hospital to provide mothers with a place of rest and comfort during their children's hospital stays. We've also modernized the eye clinic at the hospital to improve patient care. At the Noguchi Memorial Institute, we built a modern incinerator to assist with waste disposal. Additionally, we've enhanced the university's aesthetics by refurbishing the central fountain near the entrance at Okponglu. Few may be aware that we have an alumni center, and part of it houses EcoBank on campus. Proceeds from our alumni efforts go towards meaningful projects like the Garden of Fame Monument, which not only serves as a tribute to illustrious alumni, but also generates funds for further university initiatives. We invite more alumni to participate and have their names engraved on this enduring monument. One such initiative is the creation of the Hotspot Comfort Zone, a place for students to use their spare time productively with modern technology and a peaceful atmosphere. The first Hotspot Comfort Zone, funded by the alumni, was handed over to the university management on 30th June 2025. A second one in collaboration with the alumni and funded by the Speaker of Parliament, Right Honorable Alban Sumana Kingsford Bagman, is near completion and will be handed over by the end of this month, November 2025. The UGAA also strives to support students through mentorship programs, including guidance on CV writing, interview skills, and insight from professionals in various fields. We do offer student internships with corporate partners to provide practical experience. Our involvement extends to discussions with student bodies like the SRC and JCR to address campus concerns. We have also refitted traditional hall reading rooms to create conducive study environments. We annually host the Alumni Lecture featuring distinguished alumni who share insights on topics of national importance. We also award academic prizes to outstanding students in different fields. Our vision of building an event center behind the Alumni building to provide a space for various campus activities and the general public has become a reality. On 30th October 2025, a sword cutting ceremony was held for the construction of a modern event center funded by Mr. Alex Apaudade, the speaker for the 2025 lecture. All upon all alumni to be part of this journey to make the University of Ghana a world-class institution and a beacon of education and excellence. Together, we can uphold the words of our school's anthem, Hail University of Ghana, the nation's hope and glory.
Yes, indeed. Together, we can make the University of Ghana a beacon of hope. Thank you. And as you saw on the video, the Garden of Fame, which is situated at our Alumni Center, we still have a lot of spaces. So I entreat a lot of you who are here, tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend that you should all try and have your name on the Alumni Center. Proceeds actually helps us to carry out projects for the university and for future generations. So for those of you who haven't yet written your names on the monument, please, this is the time to do so. Thank you so much. And for those who have, I say kudos to you and thank you so much. Anyway, our sincere gratitude goes to our sponsors who have always been our backbone. Without our sponsors, such programs cannot come on. And this is why we need more of your money for the monument so we can hold more of such activities and events. Thank you. Our sincere gratitude goes to our sponsors, EPP Books and Services, Legon City Mall, Matrix Fitness Club, KGL Group, Bank of Ghana, Stanbic Bank Ghana, Innova DDB Ghana, Margins ID Group, Ghana Revenue Authority, First Bank Ghana, KEK Insurance Brokers, and KPMG. And of course, our media partners. Thank you for your good works. Graphic Communications, Daily Guide, Business and Financial Times, Multimedia Group, and Radio Universe. Our appreciation also goes to the Vice Chancellor and her administration for their usual support towards this event and all other events that we've held over the year and other events that we'll be holding as the years go by. So, Madam Vice Chancellor, thank you so much. In conclusion, I welcome you all once again. I am confident that today's lecture will be insightful and provide a good learning platform for us all. God bless the University of Ghana. God bless our nation, Ghana. And God bless us all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Doris Kisiwa-Ansah, for the warm welcome and indeed for your leadership of the Alumni Association that is continuing to support the university in achieving its mission and vision. We are most grateful. Please, another round of applause for the Alumni Association and also for the chairman. Thank you very much. I'd now like to invite the Registrar of the University of Ghana, Mrs. Emilia J. Mensah, who will be introducing to us our chairperson for this evening's lecture. Please, may I ask you to clap again as she comes to the podium.
Vice-Chancellor and other officials of the university, the chair and members of the Alumni Council, alumni of the University of Ghana, our faculty and staff, Nananum Nime Name, students of the University of Ghana, our young friends from Presec and Achimota School, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, a very good evening to you all. It is my honor to introduce the chairperson for this evening's alumni lecture. Our chairperson is Professor Nanaba Pia Amfu, the first female vice-chancellor of the University of Ghana. She's a professor of linguistics, an accomplished administrator, and brings over 2 decades of experience in the higher education sector. Within the University of Ghana, she has held several key leadership positions, including Pro-Vice Chancellor for Academic and Student Affairs. She was the founding Dean of the School of Languages. She has served also as the head of the Department of Linguistics. As Vice Chancellor, she is championing the integration of technology across the university's operations while ensuring that its people remain at the heart of the university's mission. Professor Amfo has received numerous accolades for her contributions to education, leadership, and the empowerment of women. Most recently, she was named Ambassador for Gender Equity and Social Inclusion by the Association of African Universities. She's a fellow of the Ghana Academy of Arts and Sciences and an active member of several esteemed academic and professional organizations. She's the founding president of the African Humanities Association and president also of the International Federation for Modern Languages and Literatures. Additionally, she serves as vice chair on the boards of both the African Research Universities Alliance, ARUA, and the Worldwide Universities Network, WUUN. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me to warmly welcome Professor Nanaba Pia Amfu, Vice-Chancellor of the University of Ghana and chairperson for this evening's alumni lecture.
Thank you very much, Madam Registrar, for your kind introduction. Our distinguished lecturer, Mr. Alex Apau-Dade, Chairman and members of the University of Ghana Alumni Association Council, our cherished alumni who are here with us this evening, the Provost of the College of Health Sciences, who is also acting in the stead of a Pro-Vice Chancellor, Madam Registrar, Deans, Directors, and Heads of Departments, former university officials, CIC, former Vice Chancellor, Professor Emeritus Professor Adai Mensah. I also see some current government officials. I see the Deputy Attorney General, the Honorable Dr. Srem Sai, and as the MP of Equapim North that I see next to you, Mr. Sami Awuku. I also do acknowledge Mr. Osafumafu, who is here with us, heads of corporate institutions, faculty, staff, and students who are here, specially invited guests, Let me also recognize our Nananum who are here with us this evening. You are very much welcome. The press, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Oh, I expected a response. Good evening. Great. And a warm welcome to you all. It is both a privilege and an honor to address this distinguished gathering at the 2025 edition of the University of Ghana Alumni Association Public Lecture. The Alumni Lecture series was instituted as an esteemed platform for our distinguished alumni, men and women who have walked these hallowed walls and gone on to leave indelible marks in their respective fields, to return home, as it were, not merely to reminisce, but to reflect, to challenge, and to inspire. It is a platform where thought leadership meets civic duty, where the university's enduring motto, Integre Procedamus, comes alive in national discourse. This year's theme, Public-Private Partnership, a case study of responsible citizenship, could not be timelier. Across the world, the synergy between the public and private sectors has proven to be a cornerstone of sustainable development. In Ghana, the public-private model has evolved as a strategic framework to leverage the efficiency, innovation, and capital of the private sector in delivering public infrastructure and services, from transportation and energy to education, housing, and healthcare. Since the adoption of the National Policy on Public-Private Partnerships in 2011, Ghana has witnessed several landmark PPP projects, including the Atuabo Gas Pipeline, Pokwasi Interchange, Accra-Tema Motorway Extension, Takoradi Port Rehabilitation, and affordable housing projects under varied concession modules. These initiatives underscore the immense potential of PPPs to accelerate national growth when governance, accountability, and shared responsibility align. Yet, the journey has not been without challenges. Some projects have struggled with sustainability, regulatory coherence, and stakeholder trust. These challenges invite a deeper national conversation, one that goes beyond mere contractual collaboration to a broader ethos of responsible citizenship. Because at its core, effective public-private partnership is not simply a business arrangement. It's a social contract built on mutual respect, transparency, and a shared commitment to the public good. As we gather this evening, we are honored to be guided through this lecture by one of our very own, a distinguished alumnus whose leadership embodies both public service and private sector excellence. Mr. Alex Apau-Dade, Board Chair and Executive Chairman of KGL Group, a renowned entrepreneur and philanthropist with a successful career spanning over 3 decades across multiple sectors and continents, shares his rich insights and perspectives on the subject of public-private partnerships. In the lecture he's about to deliver, he argues that the private sector drives true national prosperity. However, in Africa, private enterprises are often treated as peripheral actors in national development strategies rather than as indispensable partners. Drawing from the cases of indigenous Ghanaian companies in comparison with foreign international businesses, he contends that the absence of an enabling policy architecture has historically undermined the evolution of indigenous industrial champions capable of scaling globally. The lecturer concludes by advancing a compelling argument for a refined model of partnerships between the state and private enterprise as a foundation for Ghana's sustainable transformation. I look forward to an illuminating lecture that will not only examine how Ghana's PPP experiences have unfolded, but also chart pathways for deepening collaboration that is both inclusive and responsible. When citizens, corporate leaders, and public officials all see themselves as partners in progress, national development ceases to be a government agenda. It becomes a collective enterprise. May our discussions tonight strengthen our conviction that responsible citizenship expressed through partnership, integrity, and innovation remains the surest route to national transformation. Thank you and welcome once again to the 2025 University of Ghana Alumni Lecture. Do enjoy the lecture.
Thank you very much, Madam Vice Chancellor, Chairperson for this evening's lecture. It's now time for us to sit back, relax, and enjoy a performance by the Ghana Dance Ensemble. This evening, the Ghana Dance Ensemble is presenting to us Kotodwe, which is an Akan recreational dance with vibrant and compelling music. The dance is a performance of wits between young men and women, and it exemplifies the importance of competition and the need to focus on a given task. This dance has been selected for this lecture, first to reflect the ethnicity of our illustrious lecturer for this evening, and secondly, the dance plays into today's lecture, which is on the roles of public and private sectors, or which is on the roles that private and public sectors must play to advance the cause of our nation, Ghana. Ladies and gentlemen, Kotodwe by the Ghana Dance Ensemble. Thank you very much. A round of applause for the Ghana Dance Ensemble. A very interesting name for a dance. I was wondering why, but I realized that if you have Kotojo problems, you might not be able to do this movement. I can assure you this is not just for the old people, but there are some young people who are already suffering knee problems. So I want to thank them for energizing our lecture this evening. Thank you once again. Please let's applaud them and acknowledge them one more time. Thank you very much. It's now time for us to meet our speaker. And this evening, our speaker will be introduced to us by Professor Yao Oheneba Sechi, who is the first vice chairman of the University of Ghana Alumni Association. Let's encourage him with a round of applause as he comes.
Good evening, Madam Chairperson. Please permit me to stand on the established protocols to introduce our guest speaker. Mr. Alice Apo Adade, business leader and philanthropist. Mr. Alice Apo Adade is a prominent Ghanaian entrepreneur and a philanthropist with over 30 years of experience across various industries. He is the executive chairperson of the KGL Group, and he's the member of this organization, which is Ghanaian, wholly owned Ghanaian enterprise, and he has been with this company for quite some time. Under his leadership, the KGL Group has achieved significant milestones, including KGL technology being promoted and the Technology Company of the Year. He's also known for his entrepreneurship, and he has received the Ghana Club 100 Award in 2023. In addition, he's been recognized for setting up several industries over the years. He's also credited with initiating the Ghana Diaspora Homecoming Summit in 2017 and the Ghana Investment and Promotion Summit in 2019. Both now had bilinear to promote investment in Ghana. His contribution to these industries have been recognized all over the world. Mr. Dade began his career at the United Kingdom in 1986, progressing from export sales supervisor to export sales director at the Gordon Richmond Textiles Limited. He is a philanthropist and established the KGL Foundation, which focuses on the social intervention programs in sports, health, and education. The foundation has been involved in sponsoring the Ghana national soccer team, the Black Stars, and the 2021-2022 AFCON and the World Cup, among other initiatives. The group has also sponsored major events such as the Diaspora Investment Summit in 2021, the GIPC Diaspora Investment Summit, the Diaspora African Forum, and the Mother Voila Fetcher and the ankle reed in Ghana, and the Investment and Opportunities and Summit in 2020 in London. KGL Foundation has frequently collaborated with other charities in Ghana, initiating activities including the Kokruko Foundation, the Rebecca Foundation, and the Achievers Ghana Foundation, and many others that have been in the social enterprises. Ladies and gentlemen, with a round of applause, let's welcome our speaker for today, Mr. Alex Apaudade, a business leader and a philanthropist.
Nanamatam Konya. Generation Poyanemu. Amamo Kwaba. Akunro near Nintina. Moshia Numre. Amamunya Kwaba. Many animation fouet. Santra foi. Machin, Mamma Quabel. Mamma Cayon, I'm a fire ye. And then I see how much of young Ponyami and so. Oh, Yamin one is here, Henny. On once in the Tiasamano. And one I do. Young and Quacker Tesso. The best selling any penny and a pomodine. Been my campaboma. Been my flat as a former. And so I don't want no more, but I want young and come one. Nanny Dimona, a yanka. Men Cybra young anymore, young anymore. At the Codian Tiawa, Bangman, young for Binti, and the Shamo. Oh, then young for Alex Apo Dada Baman, nay. What do you continue could draw? I said, as you point out, Yamo, be a campus singer. And here be mine. Now, do what in Sunny Abo. What you may ask Sunny? Oh, when you man, I want him, dear. Why a boy for so? And I'm not so many baby and nibbin and Sonia baby, I see. Tiniatons are from Mamma. My Bejina, as Mamma Sam, Mamma, first I went on to sang out to Franciano, quite to Srimbo said, I say, was that you could hear in some. What you my panty? Any baby and uncle can be none so. And your baby, a sea. Timmerman, Ton Safra, a bland wardrobe, Bamana Casa, Casa, Nina Pau halfway, Casa, Casa. Casa, Casa, Mama na kasao, kasao.
Excellent. Thank you very much. When I just came up, the Vice Chancellor asked me a question, why didn't I go to Achibota School? Because I'm a great advancement boy. And this has followed me all my life. I've lived in partly my dad's shadow. I'm Alex A. Daddy Jr., he's Alex A. Daddy Sr. And it's either President Kufuor, who he taught in Prempeh College, asking me why I didn't go to Prempeh College, or someone else asking me why I didn't go to Kwiapeman, and another person asking me why I didn't go to Achimota. But he knew best. Advancement School was the best. So thank you very much. Thank you. Coming here brings me very, very good memories. And like the previous speaker said, my dad had been one of the longest serving members of the University Council. So he drove me here one day when I was in France, just before I took my A-levels, and he drove me to the office of Professor J. Bequin and said to me that, you're going to read law. I said, no, I want to read administration. And he said to me that, you know, those old guys come from the school of classics and those things. He said, administration is for commercial school students. So here you are, I came in to the university, good memories, met the likes of Professor Mills, who taught us very well he was my professor in, I think it was commercial law and company law. So those are good memories that we had. I stand on the protocols already observed. It is with profound honor and gratitude that I stand before you as an alumnus of the University of Ghana, more precisely the University of Ghana Business School, to deliver the 2025 Alumni Lecture. I extend my heartfelt appreciation to the University of Ghana Alumni Association for this invitation, and more importantly, for sustaining this thought-provoking platform that brings together alumni, academia, policymakers, and the wider public to engage in meaningful conversations. I follow a long line of eminent speakers. I think I can see Mr. Otinjesi here, very respectable speaker. The 36th, to be precise, who have delivered this lecture. It is therefore truly humbling as another private sector person joins this elite group of speakers. I once again extend my profound, heartfelt gratitude to the executives of the University of Ghana Alumni Association, and in particular to you, Madam Chair. To you, Madam Chair, for the quiet determination and consistent efforts that have made this lecture possible. I have often reflected on how my background from advancement and the beginning of my journey with the University of Ghana opened new horizons for me, shaping not just my intellect, but my values, discipline, and sense of purpose. Legon taught me that true education goes beyond the classroom. It is about character, resilience, humility, and the courage to keep striving even when the path is uncertain. I learned that the growth comes from service, that leadership begins with empathy, and that success has meaning only when it uplifts others. And of all the gifts Legon gave me, one remains the most precious. It gave me a life partner, my wife of 35 years. That treasure alone That treasure alone makes the journey at Legon truly priceless. Distinguished guests, the theme I have chosen for today's lecture is public-private partnership, a case study of responsible corporate citizenship. It is both timely and significant. My perspective, ladies and gentlemen, is not from a position of academia, but rather shaped by decades of experience building global enterprises and with the highs and lows that have accompanied this journey. Across the globe, nations are grappling with complex developmental challenges, infrastructural deficits, youth unemployment, inequality, climate change, and a growing digital divide. No single actor, whether government, business, or civil society, can tackle these issues in isolation. It is within this context that the idea of public-private partnership emerges, not merely as a financing mechanism, but as a strategic framework for sustainable development. I look at the past lessons. At its core, this lecture seeks to address a pressing question. How do we design partnerships that move beyond transactional interest and instead delivers lasting value for citizens, communities, and the nation? In exploring this, ladies and gentlemen, we must acknowledge that public-private partnerships must therefore be seen as an integral part of nation building and sustainable development. However, the private sector must also recognize its responsibility that the wealth it creates must translate into shared value for society. This is the essence of responsible corporate citizenship. Let me begin by exploring how Ghana's private sector has evolved, stumbled, risen again, and where it must go from here. I have always maintained that governments do not create wealth, the private sector does. The government may set the rules of the game, but it is the private sector that plays it with innovation, capital, and resilience. There are historical antecedents that support why public-private partnerships must be embraced as a cornerstone of nation building and inclusive development. Permit me to highlight a few of these historical antecedents. Who remembers Siam Industries, founded by Apia Siam, a Ghanaian known business in the mid-70s that once held the license to bottle and distribute Pepsi Cola in Ghana? A household name, a symbol of indigenous entrepreneurial excellence. Sadly, Siam Industries was nationalized and eventually collapsed, leaving behind not just a factory, but a cautionary note for all and sundry. Where was the protective policy? Where was the enabling state machinery to cushion it from abrupt nationalization and eventual collapse? Today, ladies and gentlemen, Siam Industries is no more, and so is the golden opportunity we lost. Again, we saw the case of Ghana National Trading Corporation, once one of the largest trading entities in West Africa. GNTC was established as a hybrid model, blending public ambition with commercial activity. And at its peak, it controlled a significant portion of Ghana's retail and wholesale trade. It was in nearly every major city and town in Ghana and served as a conduit for distributing essential commodities, promoting local goods, and stabilizing market prices. But despite its strong foundation and reach, GNTC fell into despair. Why? As the years went by, bureaucracy overtook business sense. Political interference diluted commercial logic. The leadership of the corporation often changed with governments. Innovation slowed and investment stalled. And suddenly, what was once a symbol of Ghanaian market efficiency became bloated, inefficient, and unable to compete. This is not just a case study. It persists. It persists in almost every public organization in Ghana today. But then comes the real question. Where was the enabling state machinery to cushion it from steady decline? GNTC could have evolved into our version of ShopRite or Game, expanded into regional markets, building a distribution empire and becoming training ground for Ghanaian retail and supply chain managers. But that future never materialized. One that could have been saved with partnerships with the private sector. We witnessed a similar trajectory in the case of Neoplan Ghana, a vehicle assembly plant that built buses proudly made in Ghana. Neoplan Ghana today is a shell of its former self. Its plants underutilized, its production lines silent, and its legacy in danger of being forgotten. Now consider this. At roughly the same time that Neoplan Ghana was assembling buses in Ghana, Tata Motors in India was also doing the same thing. They too started with modest means, but the difference, a strategic and sustained alignment between public policy and private ambition. That was the difference. The Indian government, unlike the Ghana government, backed Tata through industrial policy, financing, research and development incentives, and preferential procurement. Tata Motors was given space to evolve, to compete, to fail, to learn, and to scale. Today, it is a global brand, exporting vehicles to over 100 countries, acquiring international firms like Land Rover, and building electric vehicles for the future. So why not Neoplan Ghana? Instead, Neoplan, like many failed state enterprises today, was left to navigate a highly competitive industry on its own, with limited policy support, inconsistent procurement commitments, and little access to the capital and infrastructure necessary to modernize. Like GNTC and so many others, it faded, not because it lacked potential, but because we lacked a national strategy to protect and grow our local expertise and industries. So what's the solution? Evolution through public-private partnerships and responsible corporate governance. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe the answer lies in what I call the natural evolution of public-private partnerships and responsible corporate citizenship. There are various forms of public-private partnerships. And can you put it on the screen, the various forms, if you could, please? So I wanted to show you the various forms of public-private partnerships for us. And I want to reference what we, my group at KGL, do with the government. Well, we engage, there are about 12 forms of partnerships with public entities, including build, operate, and transfer, licensing regimes. We at KGL engages government in two of these. One of my companies, KGL Group, engages government in an exclusive license with the National Lottery Authority. And we also engage government in another form of partnership, which is the design, build, finance, and maintain model, which is the Fuel Automation Ghana with the Ministry of Fisheries. So these are all models of partnerships. Ladies and gentlemen, the power of the private sector lies not in its ambition, but in its partnerships. Public-private partnerships are the bridge between innovation and impact. They allow the government to harness the expertise and financing capabilities of private enterprise while upholding accountability and public trust. You can see in every private economy, there comes a point where the government can no longer do it alone. The private sector must not only be involved, it must lead. But it cannot do so in isolation. So what do? We look at the government's role in this. Distinguished guests, to unlock the full potential of public-private partnerships, the role of government must be both strategic and enabling. First and foremost, the government must identify and prioritize key growth sectors, be it infrastructure, agriculture, energy, education, or digital technology, where private sector expertise and innovation can deliver measurable development outcomes. This prioritization must be accompanied by targeted policy incentives that reduce costs and risk of doing business. I think I've got it on the screen, what government should do. First, setting the vision and policy direction. The first and foremost and most vital role of PPPs is for the government to provide clarity of vision and policy. The private sector needs to know where the country is headed, what the priorities are, and what role it can play. This is why initiatives such as the Public-Private Partnership Act 2020, Act 1039, are so important. They establish a clear, predictable framework that guides how public-private partnerships are conceived, structured, and executed. When government policies are transparent, consistent, and long-term, investors can plan with confidence. Predictability builds partnerships. Secondly, and equally important, is the creation of a conducive business environment through comprehensive legal, regulatory, and institutional reforms. No matter how attractive a market may appear, private investors will hesitate to commit capital without assurance of fairness, predictability, and rule of law. Contracts must not only be enforceable, but also protected from arbitrary political or legal reversals. This, more than any single incentive, creates the trust and stability upon which long-term private participation depends. Beyond these structural reforms, the government must also establish predictable investment promotion institutions and interministerial coordination frameworks to align policy implementation and ensure coherence across agencies. These bodies should serve as a one-stop facilitation center that streamline approvals, reduce red tape, and provide technical support to both local and foreign investors. Third point is fair risk sharing and incentives. A successful PPP is built on fair risk allocation. The government must therefore take responsibility for political and regulatory risk, while the private sector assumes operational and financial risks. Usually, what we see in our country is governments sign contracts with the private sector in previous administration, and new governments come in and the risk is not taken. But from the private sector's point of view, when KGL signs a contract with any entity, if I drop dead today, they will have to honor that contract. So what we mean by governments taking political and regulatory risks is that that's the area of government. They have to ensure that whatever agreements they engage in the private sector must be fulfilled. And that is what I mean by political and regulatory risk. And so does the private sector as well has a responsibility to honor operational and financial risks. So you find out that sometimes most private sector operators don't have the capacity to deliver, but they go into these agreements with governments or contracts with governments, and you see why sometimes government chases them to perform. So the risk sharing should be allocated fairly. Incentives such as tax reliefs, guarantees, and access to local financing can make PPP projects more attractive and sustainable. These mechanisms encourage the private sector to bring in not just capital, but invest in innovation and efficiency. Fourthly, institutional capacity and accountability. The government must also strengthen its institutions to manage public-private partnerships effectively. The PPP unit at the Ministry of Finance is an important step, but we must go further by building capacity across ministries, agencies, and local authorities to design, negotiate, and monitor PPP projects. There has to be transparency and accountability. Ladies and gentlemen, we have seen encouraging examples of PPP success in Ghana. Some of them I can show on the screen. The Terminal 3, Kotoka International Airport, the Accra Tema Motorway Project, Takoradi Port. I can go on and on. I think I've got quite a few on the screen that you can see there. So there's been some success which has enhanced trade and logistics and partnerships in energy, housing, transport that continue to create jobs and opportunities. But these are only the beginning. The demand for infrastructure, roads, railways, water systems, schools, hospitals remain immense. These are areas where government and the private sector can and must work closely together. So there must be that collaboration between public and private sector. Let me emphasize, the private sector is not a competitor to government. It is a partner in nation building. Our goal must be a Ghana where public-private partnerships are not occasional projects, but a standard model for development, where Ghanaian entrepreneurs and investors lead the charge in delivering world-class infrastructure and services. Now we have to look at ownership when we talk about public-private partnerships. Who owns what? For public-private partnerships to be beneficial to Ghanaians, we must claim ownership of our economy. When we achieved political independence in 1957, our founding fathers declared that Ghana was capable of managing its own affairs. Nearly 7 decades later, that vision must surely evolve into something deeper, that the Ghanaian is capable of owning, growing, and transforming its own economy. Ladies and gentlemen, true independence is not just political, it is economic. It is the power to decide our own economic destiny, to build industries that are controlled by Ghanaians. and to ensure that the wealth created within our borders benefits our people first and foremost. If we are honest with ourselves, too many of our economic sectors, be it banking, mining, telecommunication, construction, and even retail, are all dominated by foreign capital. The returns of these investments often flow outwards, while Ghanaian talent and enterprise struggle to find capital, mentorship, and policy support needed to scale. This is not sustainable, Madam Chair. We cannot continue to consume what others produce and borrow what others save. Ghana must become a producer nation, one where Ghanaian entrepreneurs own the commanding heights of our economy. To achieve this, we need deliberate action on 3 fronts. First, we must use PPPs to empower local enterprise. Government policy must tilt the balance in favor of Ghanaian businesses, not as charity. And I emphasize the word charity, not as charity, but as strategic imperative. Access to finance, fair taxation, and procurement opportunities should prioritize local firms capable of delivering value. And I also emphasize the word capable of delivering value, not any local firm. Local firms shouldn't be given the opportunity not because government wants to be charitable, but because it's a strategic imperative. And also because they are capable of delivering value. The second thing, and I must confess that KGL Group has been a beneficiary of a government policy that has created what KGL stands for now. And in the area of the National Lottery where we deal in, it was because the lottery was reserved for only Ghanaians. If the case was different, KGL couldn't have competed. The Camelots of England would have been here and taken the companies like KGL out. So you can see how government policy, when it should empower local enterprise, and when that grows, when companies like these grow, they bring along others. The second thing we must mobilize Ghanaian capital, especially our pension funds, our savings, and most importantly, our diaspora remittances. These are Ghanaian resources that must be invested in Ghanaian enterprises. So we want to see our pension funds invested in our companies. We want to see our diaspora remittances invested and our savings invested in Ghanaian companies. We must build responsible platforms that channel Ghanaian wealth into Ghanaian hands. Third, we must nurture a mindset of ownership and excellence among our youth who are here today. Ghana's future belongs to young people who believe that they can build, own, and lead world-class enterprises. Right here in Ghana, ownership begins in the mind with confidence, discipline, and purpose. Ladies and gentlemen, Ghana's economic emancipation will not come from aid or charity. It will come from ownership. Ownership of our ideas, our resources, our institutions, and our future. We should therefore commit as citizens, entrepreneurs, and leaders, public and private leaders, to build an economy that is truly Ghanaian in its ownership, global in its competitiveness, and inclusive in its benefits. Let us ensure that the next generation will not ask, who owns Ghana's economy? Because the answer will be clear. Ghanaians do. In essence, the government's role in public-private partnerships is not to replace the private sector, but to empower it, to create the right conditions for the private sector to thrive, scale, and lead national transformation. When the public sector provides clarity of purpose, consistency in policy, and a level playing field, the private sector will rise to the challenge with capital, creativity, and innovation. Ghanaian companies can then evolve from local operators into global champions, exporting not only products and services, but homegrown innovation, digital platforms, and scalable solutions tailored for emerging markets. I happen to be a strong advocate of diaspora inclusion. So when I talk about public-private partnerships, on the private side, I think that has to or will be driven by our diaspora. So in talking about public-private partnership, I cannot leave out our diaspora. It is high time we recognize the vital role of the Ghanaian diaspora in facilitating partnerships. Across the world, Ghanaians have distinguished themselves in business, academia, and innovation. We must harness that expertise and investment to create a two-way bridge between Ghana and her global sons and daughters. A bridge that transfers not only money, but knowledge, network, and opportunity. Madam Chair, some 37 years ago, I completed my first degree at the University of Ghana School of Administration, and I left Ghana, as many of my compatriots in those days did, with a clear purpose and commitment to migrate temporarily to the United Kingdom to acquire requisite skills, expertise, generate capital needed, and commit to returning back to Ghana, the land of my birth. In the United Kingdom, I worked hard, I achieved my goals abroad. Then I purposefully set out to look for opportunities in Ghana. I found my niche by investing in businesses and offering support to struggling Ghanaian companies. In those days, from England, we would finance the likes of GNTC, public organizations, and private sector organizations like NAB Brothers. I'm talking about the 90s. And this was the period, if some of you could remember, of the structural adjustment program under the IMF, the rationing of foreign exchange, and the imposition of price controls. There was lack of foreign exchange. So the economy was financed by people like us from the diaspora, sending foreign exchange home and doing that sort of business. My business model was fairly simple. I would receive requests from public and private sector organizations to fund their imports. In essence, I was remitting funds to support businesses, friends, and family. Distinguished guests, my story is hardly unique. Millions of diasporans have and continue to invest in Ghana and in strategic destinations across Africa. No country has developed a sustained development without the engagement and commitment of its most valuable human resource, the diaspora. Diaspora communities have been crucial in Ghana's evolution. The Ghanaian diaspora's unique contribution to developing our home country spans from capital, knowledge, and technology transfers that lead to increased productivity. Their efficiency and competitiveness have delivered tangible job creation, improvements in living standards, and higher growth. In a recent British Council and Overseas Development Institute study, exploring the landscape of social enterprise in Ghana, it is estimated, or it was estimated, that 60% of all social enterprise all social enterprise activity in Ghana is influenced by diasporans. A report by the Ghana Investment Promotion Center also indicates that in 2022, diasporan-led companies invested over $450 million in various sectors of the economy. As you can see there, there was 450 million invested by these diasporan communities. 60% of social enterprise initiatives were all carried out by diasporans. And these are through their remittances and that. But beyond personal remittances, the Ghanaian diaspora has also proven itself capable of promoting trade and foreign direct investment between their host country and their country of origin. They act as ambassadors between those countries, and they speak on behalf of their on behalf of their home countries. But we must purposefully and strategically find a way to channel these remittances into the productive sector. While remittances continue to be the largest source of foreign exchange inflows into the country, surpassing FDI and trade in cocoa and gold. I think the Bank of Ghana recorded, I believe, as at the end of, I think I've got it on a slide, those operating the slide, can you please put it up? The Bank of Ghana recorded, I think, $650 million as remittance, recorded $6.6 billion as remittances. But unofficially, it's believed that the diasporans have remitted 11.5 billion as at the end of 2024, as opposed to 1.7 billion recorded by the 1.7 billion was recorded by Bank of Ghana, not GIPC, Bank of Ghana, and 617 was recorded by GIPC. I think there's disparity in those figures, but it's the way, when I was chairman of GIPC, I think we were arguing with the Bank of Ghana on how they compile these figures. But basically what we are saying is FDI into Ghana was 1.7 billion. But look at diaspora remittances, 11.5 billion. And what do we do with FDI? FDI is when the guys at GIPC, when the president, the ministers, and all these people go out to drum in foreign direct investment at a very heavy cost. They only bring back about 1.7 billion. Now look at the diasporans. 11 billion. Do we go to look for them? No. They send it in. We don't go on meet them. We don't go and meet them. We don't have trade missions and that. They send that in. So you could tell that it makes sense that we focus on our own. But the remittances that come in alone is not enough. Because it comes in. It's enough, but it comes in as a consumption item, which means that most of what comes in goes to our friends, our fathers, and that. So we have to channel that through policies. And that's what we have been fighting for, diaspora engagement policies, to see how we can create confidence within our diaspora community so that they can invest these. But for the purpose of this lecture, I would suggest 3 distinct areas that I believe that we can channel these remittances. One of them is the diaspora direct investment. Like I said, we welcome foreigners. Myself, having been the chairman of GIPC, I've gone out with the colleagues to bring in foreign direct investment. I always say that we prefer diaspora direct investment to foreign direct investment. Only because while this continues, diaspora remittances continue to be the biggest source of foreign exchange earner we want to channel this into diaspora and direct investment because for decades, successive governments have prioritized FDI as a cornerstone of economic development. While FDI has indeed played a critical role, it is time we rethink our approach. We must shift our focus from traditional FDI to a more sustainable, impactful alternative, diaspora and direct investment. And people like myself are a clear example of what diaspora and investment can bring, because we have come in, and what we mean by diaspora and direct investment is the diasporans come in with their money, invest directly into the economy, hardly borrowing from here, maybe borrowing from their home countries, and that most likely at cheaper rates, and that, but they bring in the capital, they bring in the financial inflows. So that is an area that we would have to look at. Diaspora and direct investment is not just about capital inflow. It is about leveraging the unique value of people who have deep ties to Ghana, individuals who understand its challenges, recognize its opportunities, and are personally vested in its success. Unlike FDI, which often fluctuates based on global economic trends and foreign policies. You know, we experienced that during the COVID period. FDI dried up. And one thing you can say about DDI is those of us from the diaspora who came in and invested in this country never went back during the COVID period. Our investment stayed here, continued to stay here. We battled it out through the COVID period. But you can see now that we have battled it out, the diasporans have battled it out, the foreign direct investment is coming back. So you can see the difference. We come and do the work. Because where are you going to take the money? You are deeply rooted in this society. DDI is rooted in cultural connections, is rooted in shared experiences, and is rooted in an intrinsic commitment to Ghana's prosperity. So you are not here as a diasporan to just make money. You come from here. You wouldn't take your money and say, look, country is struggling, you need to do some haircut and go. No, you are deeply rooted. Remittances from Ghanaian diaspora have already proven to be significant economic drivers, contributing billions annually. So by channeling these resources into promising ventures, they are not only stimulating local economies, but are also ignite a cycle of innovation and self-reliance that benefits everyone. This is more than financial transactions, ladies and gentlemen. It's about reconnecting with our roots, that's the diasporans, honoring our heritage, and laying the foundation for a future where our collective prosperity is built on our shared history and values. This is the promise of diaspora direct investment. It empowers us to reclaim our narrative and build bridges that foster enduring partnerships across the country. This is the paradigm shift we need. A move from passive financial support to active strategic investment and partnerships with the public and private sector. I think I've mentioned earlier on about the other type of diaspora investment is what I call diaspora philanthropic investment. Diaspora philanthropic investment is where, showed on the board as 60% of all these social enterprises are funded by diasporans. So the other type is that diaspora philanthropic investment. For us at KGL Group as well, this is something that we've done very well as diaspora philanthropic investors. I'm proud to say that we have been one of the biggest CSR, largest CSRs in the country. We have throughout sectors. Can I have it on the board, please? We have invested in several sectors of the economy, as you can see there in education, what the KGL Foundation has done as a diaspora philanthropic investor, in healthcare, in sports, in in youth and empowerment and entrepreneurship. In education, for example, in the University of Ghana, we've done quite a couple of projects. We have done the West Africa crop research. I think we put in about $150,000 in that. We're doing another project here. We build schools around the country in the area of healthcare. We built the only mental health care facility north of the country in Kumasi, which will be commissioned in December. So you can see in the space the diasporan mind, what it does, translating diasporan investment into diasporan philanthropic investment, direct investment into philanthropic investment. And with that mindset, we at KGL have put aside 5% of our profit, huge, it's a huge sum, we committed it to social intervention policies, giving 300 scholarships across. And this is not only about KGL, I think some, not all, but some huge companies in the country do the same thing. So it makes sense for the diaspora and immigrant organizations to invest in these social impactful projects. The other area that diasporans invest in, which is the third area that I would recommend that we channel some of these remittances into, are diasporan portfolio investment. What are portfolio investments? The difference between portfolio investment and direct investment is portfolio investments are investing in things like stocks, sovereign bonds, equity purchases, investment in fixed income, securities, and that sort of thing. That you can sit in London or New York and invest in this country. So we would encourage the diasporans to channel some of this into these products. And I stand even more convinced that the true strength and progress of our diaspora lies in our unity and our roots. That brings me then to, after collaborating with our diasporans, after partnerships with our government or the public sector, what then do we do? What next? What is the impact? Because for all these things, it must impact the communities that we've served in, that we've made the money from. And that is what I call responsible corporate citizenship. What is responsible corporate citizenship? Basically, when we talk about responsible corporate citizenship, basically it's the ESG. It's environmental, it's social, and governance. So I take Ghana's economic ambitions, from industrialization to energy expansions, must coexist with environmental realities. We are blessed with natural resources, gold, oil, cocoa, and a lot more. But we must ensure, as corporates, that our pursuit of progress does not deplete the resources that sustain us. And what do we mean by that? The environmental pillar of ESG challenges us to balance growth with responsibility, to adopt renewable energy, reduce emissions, promote recycling, and protect our biodiversity and our water bodies. The mining, what it simply means is that the government is fighting galamsey. The mining companies should be at the forefront of this fight, where they have made millions or billions in these societies. They should be paying for that. Ourselves, KGL, using ourselves as an example, one of our companies, KGL Tech, is involved in the lottery sector. The responsibility of KGL Tech in the lottery sector is to ensure that there's no underage gambling. Those who have been gambling and taking lotto underage, right, should be helped out of that. And also the communities that we as a company have benefited from should also benefit. And that's one of the reasons why we have built that healthcare facility in Kumasi. That's one of the largest markets of lottery, and we've been involved in the lottery. So we can only give back. That is the reason why we as KGL fund the Black Stars, and we funded them for the last 4 years. So that's why we do a lot of these funding. The funding comes from the communities that we've made this money from. So it is imperative that corporate Ghana should take the environment very serious. Their corporate citizen, their good corporate citizenship responsibility must be taken serious. One other area when we talk about corporate citizenship, and sorry. Okay. One other area when we talk about good corporate citizenship is the social dimension. The S in the ESG is about people. It's about employees. It is about communities and the broader society. In Ghana, social responsibility is deeply rooted in our values of community and solidarity. Yet, the demands of modern business requires us to formalize this spirit into measurable impact. This essentially means the private sector must also recognize its responsibility. The wealth it creates must translate into shared value for society and people empowerment. This is the essence of responsible corporate citizenship. I've given the example of the KGL group, what we've done in that. And our mission, a KGL group, is to lead this transformation. This purpose finds its most profound expression in what we've done in the space, and I think I've cited a few examples there. I was trying to recollect some of the things that we've done beyond sport. The foundation continues to advance financial inclusion in women's empowerment in the Upper East region, and many more initiatives that I think we've had on the board in terms of education. The foundation is giving scholarship programs and continue to do. We have empowered over 300 brilliant but needy Ghanaian students across the globe. Digitalized. One thing we take very serious is also, like I said, the mental health thing. What we've done, because we are a tech company as well, so we've digitalized access to mental health care through the Mental Health Care Index, making support services more accessible, especially in underaged, underserved communities. And then it goes on and on. And like I said, we commit about 5% of our profits annually to corporate sustainability. Then the last thing I want to talk about is the governance, which is very, very close to my heart. A good corporate governance is a key pillar. I think that's one of the things that we are lacking in this country. That is why I believe that companies like ours, leaders like myself, should make an impact, should be role models in that area, because we have a lot of Ghanaian companies, very irresponsible, not investing in the future, because usually there's a mindset that whatever, and that I found quite strange when I migrated back into Ghana, because there's a philosophy of earnings become just basically whatever you've earned, you spend. And I found it quite strange, because when a company makes 100 million, it doesn't mean he goes to spend 100 million. It means he puts aside at least 30 million of that for research and development, for putting in the right structures to get on to the next level. So you can see that there's no investment in the future in Ghanaian businesses. It's a consumption thing. He goes to the bank, he's made that, he looks at his profits, income statement, and he's made that. He goes buy houses and buy cars, and that's it. And I don't think it's only with the private sector. It's also with governments. because we don't have a maintenance culture. So what we do is we invest in things. And back in England, you could tell that even when you do these social intervention,
Ladies and gentlemen, we apologize for the interruption. We'd like to receive the Speaker of Parliament who's just arrived, the Right Honorable Alban Sumana Kingsford Bagbin. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, please let's receive the Honorable Speaker of Parliament, the Right Honorable Alban Sumana Kingsford Bagbin.
Right Honorable Speaker, welcome. So I think it's just about the last bit of my speech. I wanted to also talk about, in terms of corporate governance, if we're talking about good corporate governance, we were talking about, if I can recollect, we're talking about reinvesting in businesses instead of just consumption. By good corporate governance, I refer to the structures, the systems, and the processes by which companies are directed and controlled. Around the world, good corporate governance are proving to be a key driver of trust, investment, and long-term business success. History has shown us that poor governance whether in the form of weak oversight, mismanagement, conflicts of interest, or lack of transparency, can be devastating effects. The collapse of the banks and the financial institutions in recent years serves as a clear reminder of the cost of weak governance practices, where the state stumbled. Public-private partnership could have stood tall. And these are some of the governance issues that we face in this country. Sizable amount of companies are governed badly. And if they are governed badly, it comes also to one of my visions in setting up the KGL group, to invest in it, to set an example of a company that can transcend generations, a company that would outlive myself. Because where I live, the greater part of my life, I could see companies established 1848, companies established 1750. Ghana is not developing because it's a stop and start approach. KGL is set up by Alex Dade. He dies, he passes on, he collapses. Any building that you have to restart will never be built. So the nation is always going back. One thing when I talked about ownership was also the point that with ownership, you realize that most of the foundation of what we do, right, passing on from one generation to the other will be key. And that is how we will build these structures that will transcend ourselves. So it is key that we retain the ownership and also transfer the businesses from one generation to the other. And importantly, we must, when I forgot that bit when I talked about Ghanaian ownership, protection of Ghanaian ownership. We have to ensure that in England, during the financial crisis, I was reminded that there was too big to fail. I have a philosophy that says that a Ghanaian company should not fail. Mr. Speaker, I believe that for a Ghanaian company, that's my perception, that turns over anything over 500 million cedis, before it fails, whether through the tax system. I think we've got the Deputy Attorney General here as well. I think that we have to look at how to protect these companies. I believe that even though I'm the visionary behind KGL, I am not the only stakeholder. I shouldn't be allowed to mismanage KGL, because there are thousands and thousands and thousands of people who rely on it. It's one of the largest taxpayers in the country. So if Alex Dade wants to collapse KGL, okay, fine. We wouldn't allow you to collapse it because, yes, you are the visionary, right? So there has to be a mechanism just to protect, because in doing that, we protect jobs. We protect the public purse. So, because once you collapse a company, or once a company collapses, you don't collapse it, but founders themselves can collapse the company. I can decide that I'm tired and I will just collapse the company and move on. What happens to the employees? What happens to the taxes and that? So my suggestion is that, like the banks in England and the US, who were public entities, we were told that they were too big to fail. What did they mean by too big to fail? Because the impact on the economy for big companies failing is devastating. When I use the same KGL example, there are millions and millions and millions. There's a Black Stars. If KGL was to fail today, World Cup will be very tough for the Black Stars because they only get their funding. And the others who depend on it and that. I mean, just using KGL as an example, it could be MTN or some other companies. So we must protect these companies. Sometimes not from government, from their own owners. Because the protection sometimes comes from the mismanagement by the owners, unfair practices by the owners. So I'm not talking about protecting them from the state, but from their own owners. So that was the point I wanted to make. And that falls into the same point that I'm making on good corporate governance. Good corporate governance is the anchor of ESG. It speaks to transparency, ethics, accountability, and strong institutions. But good corporate governance goes beyond compliance. It is about leadership. It's about integrity. It's about responsible boards and decision-making that aligns with long-term stakeholder value, not short-term profits. Strong governance builds trust, and trust attracts investments. It is about these values which I've put on there on the board. It is about honesty. It is about accountability. It is about inclusion. It's about sustainability. It's about humility, dedication, commitment, trust, and innovation. That is how to create to run a good company. These values, which I dare say are lacking in our society at the moment, values crucial in nation building that aligns vision to action to build sustainable, transgenerational, Ghanaian-owned businesses. And so, when we speak of public-private partnerships, we are not speaking in abstract. We are speaking of a path that could have preserved and revitalized some of Ghana's once promising state-owned enterprises, now defunct, dormant, or struggling to survive. Madam Chair, Honorable Speaker, laws and regulations alone cannot or are not enough. Good corporate governance requires a culture of ethical leadership and integrity at all levels. The board of directors must be competent, independent. Companies like ours, they have independent boards, not family members sitting on boards and making those family decisions. They must be truly independent and proactive in overseeing management. Management must be transparent in its dealings and accountable to stakeholders. Stakeholders and the public too must demand responsibility and support organizations that uphold best practices. For PPPs to work, corporate governance must work as well to create trust. Trust between the public and private sector, between businesses and investors, between employers and employees, and between corporations and the society they serve. This trust attracts investment, fosters innovation, and builds resilience in times of crisis. Globally, investors are increasingly directing funds towards companies and countries with credible ESG commitments. Ghanaian businesses that embrace ESG will not only improve their reputation, but also become globally attractive and gain access to international capital, new markets, and strategic partnerships. For Ghana, embedding ESG into our national development agenda will help us achieve the sustainable development goals, drive green growth, and position ourselves as a preferred investment destination in Africa. As we look to the future, the question is not whether Ghana can afford to adopt ESG or good corporate citizenship. The real question is whether we can afford not to. Our government, private sector, and civil society must work together to create an ESG culture one that rewards responsible practices, penalizes misconduct, and empowers businesses to contribute meaningfully to our collective prosperity. Let me be clear. Our future is not dependent on others giving us a seat at the table. We are more than capable of building our own tables, shaping our own economies, and defining our own destinies. The time has come for the Ghanaian to take ownership of our economy, of our economic future. We must recognize that our strength lies not just in our numbers, but in our ability to work together. And I emphasize on the work together, to invest in one another. Public, private, vested, diaspora, we all work together. And I think it was Mr. Speaker who said something yesterday. He said, that is nation building. For the first time I understood the difference between a state and nation building. I think yesterday at the event you talked about nation building. And that is how to build a nation. To build a nation means we have to work together. Not partisan, not tribal, nothing. We all work together to build, because we have one destiny. The time has come for us to do that. It is not enough to celebrate our history. Independence and all that is not enough. We must shape our destiny as well. Ghana is a land of boundless potential, a place where innovation meets opportunity. It's got so much seed. I can see brilliant academics, business people, traditional leaders, and that. We've got a seed. We need the environment. We need a soil to plant these seeds in. And I call upon all of us to make the soil fertile. So the journey to Ghana's prosperity is not one we can afford to walk alone. This is our defining moment. The government cannot do it alone. Businesses cannot do it alone. Academia cannot do it alone. Communities cannot do it alone. However, together, when we bring our ideas, our resources, our knowledge, and our will, we can ignite a transformation that would echo for generations. The time for convenience is past. This is the hour of conviction and partnerships. So let us step forward as leaders, as partners, and as custodians of Ghana's tomorrow, and commit to building the bridge between ambition and impact, public and private, diasporan and local. The future will not wait, and neither should we. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Very big thank you to our speaker for this evening, Mr. Alexa Powadade. He's taking us on a deep dive into public-private partnerships and has shared some techniques with us on how such partnerships can succeed. Please, another round of applause for him as we appreciate him for this presentation. It's now time for us to make presentations to the speaker. And I would first like to call on the first presentation is by the Council of the University of Ghana Alumni Association. And this presentation will be made by Dr. Sylvia Boy and Nana Ajua Asa Bene Beyeman the first, the Juan Tuahima of Achim Ebuakwa. Please, if you can kindly come forward and do the presentation on behalf of the University of Ghana Alumni Association. Thank you very much, University of Ghana Alumni Association Council. As they take their seats, we'd like to invite Legon Hall to make the second presentation. Please let's welcome the Hall Master of Legon Hall, Dr. Alfred Atto Yangsen, and the senior tutor, Dr. Monica Mensa Dankwa, as they come forward with a team from Legon Hall, the oldest hall in the University of Ghana. Let's acknowledge them as they come forward. We see that our speaker was a gentleman, or is a gentleman from Legon Hall. A very beautiful portrait. Let's acknowledge Legon Hall. Thank you very much, Legon Hall. Next to make a presentation is from the staff of KGL, and this will be done by the group head of HR, Phyllis Wontumi. So let's give them a round of applause as they come to do their presentation to honor their chairman. Last but certainly not least, we'd like to take a presentation from Mrs. Caroline Dade, and this will be done by Mr. Ken Mpare, who is a director at KGL Group. If Mr. Mpare is here, let's see you. This is a special presentation from Mrs. Caroline Dade. I thought we would clap harder for this. Thank you very much. And so, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for us to take the closing remarks of our chairperson, and I would like to invite back here our Vice Chancellor, Professor Nana Aba Apia Amfo, to give us her closing remarks. Please, let's encourage her as she comes.
Thank you, Ms. Samsori. Distinguished guests, the Right Honorable Speaker, ladies and gentlemen, I think you would agree with me that this evening we've had a treat. The lecture has been rich and it has been thought-provoking. Earlier on, when we were in the holding room, the lecturer was flipping through the brochure, looking at the list of previous speakers, and he commented to me that these are really eminent people. I told him that that's exactly where he belongs. He's in real good company. And he has proved exactly that. Thank you very much, Mr. Dade, for this lecture. I like this evening's lecture. I like the fact that he took us on a journey down memory lane. He gave us examples of private enterprises which had challenges, which did not succeed. I would say that's the rise and collapse of these private industries. It was like going down history. I know that there are some people in the audience, some of them have escaped, like the Deputy Attorney General and the Honorable MP for Kwiapem North, who did not experience these companies. They only, have heard and read of them. I did experience some. But it was interesting listening to you, listening to even the reasons which led first to the rise of these companies and then to the collapse of these companies. But I love the fact that you did not end there, but you proceeded to give us examples of companies, particularly in the framework of the public-private partnerships that have worked. And so we didn't just listen to the doom and gloom, but we had real examples of companies that have really worked well in the context of public-private partnerships. But I also like the fact that you shared the responsibilities. You reminded us of the role of government, the fact that government needs to be strategic, communicate a clear vision, create a conducive business environment for the private sector. And the point about the sharing of fair risk also hit me quite well. And finally, on that point, institutional capacity and accountability. So you gave the government its share, but also you enlightened us on the responsibility also of the private sector itself. But what I like most about everything this evening is that, unlike some lectures that we hear about these from a purely theoretical perspective. But this time we listened to someone who has actually walked the talk. And your personal story of coming to Legon, completing Legon, going abroad, but coming back to be deliberate, identify opportunities, and take advantage of these opportunities. And clearly, you have built a very successful business that we can learn from, that the young people can look up to, be inspired, and be encouraged. That indeed, given the right environment, it is possible to be here in this country and build viable businesses. But also it's important for us to ensure that certain strategies are in place. You hampered on the point of good corporate governance. And I think that that is non-negotiable, whether you're looking at the private sector or you are looking at the public sector. It is important that we have good corporate governance. Personally, I do worry about what we do in this country, even when it comes to the public sector, that with the change of every new government, we have change of leaders, of managers, of PROs in public organizations. It's not good corporate governance. It doesn't help for sustained growth. It doesn't help for continuity. I'm looking forward that in the near future, as a country, we'll set aside this practice and put in place systems that allow us to choose our managers, our leaders, in a competitive way, like we do here at the University of Ghana, and ensure that we have sustained good leadership. And this leadership is guided by a clear vision. You made the point about us, stopping the stop and start approach and building generational businesses. But I was particularly touched about the point of diaspora inclusion, that foreign direct investment is expensive for this nation. And we need to seriously look at diaspora direct investment and do more of those. As the manager of this institution, I can attest to the value of this. In fact, we saw a video of what the Alumni Association is doing. And I must say that it's not just the alumni resident in this country that have been of great support to this university, but also alumni resident outside of the country. I think about 2 weeks or so ago, I received a donation from our Alumni Association in Liberia. Not too long ago, I think it was in September, that I was in the US together with the Honorable Clerk of Parliament. And again, we received support from our alumni over there. Sometimes it is done as a group, sometimes it is done as individuals, supporting our students through scholarships, supporting our research work, supporting our infrastructure. And so I believe that with the right system in place, this is a model that we can greatly benefit from. Thank you once again, Mr. Alex Pau Adade, for this stimulating lecture, and also for sharing with us some of your fond memories of your time here at this university. I note that you didn't just come here for a degree, but you also came here for a life partner. And so the young ones will learn from you. They won't just bury themselves in their books, but as they read, they will look around as well, and they will get a treasure for life. Thank you very much. All that he said, for me, sits squarely within our fourth strategic priority as a university: engagement and partnerships. He reminded us that we cannot build a nation by operating in silos. We can only build a nation sustainably when we work together across sectors, whether it is public or whether it is private. Thank you for that reminder. I would like to, at this point, even as I bring my closing remarks to a close, to acknowledge the support of our Alumni Association. The Alumni Association has been extremely supportive of this university, of my administration, and I want to put my appreciation on record. They support as a group, they support as subgroups, and they support as individuals. And I would like to, at this point, acknowledge the support of our speaker. He has been supporting this university, supported work at WACI, supported work as RAID, and he's going to support the building of the recreational center, the event center for the Alumni Association. Mr. Dade, we are extremely grateful for that. Let me also take this opportunity to acknowledge the Right Honorable Speaker of Parliament, who was our distinguished speaker last year. Again, he didn't come to only speak, but he's also supporting the building of a hotspot comfort zone. Earlier on, we saw it up on screen. The comfort zone is virtually done, and we are looking forward, Right Honorable Speaker, to you coming back later this month for the official commissioning. We are extremely, extremely grateful for the support that you continue to provide for this evening. I would like to, before I take my seat, to thank everyone who has contributed to this evening's program. There's a lot of work that has gone into seeing this evening, and it started many months earlier on. Thank you, Madam Chairman, for your leadership. Sometimes she gets exhausted, but we encourage each other that we are in this business together. I'm not letting her go. Thank you very much, Ms. Ansa, for your leadership. And thanks to your team and to the university team that has helped make this evening a success. And to you, our audience, for showing up, our traditional rulers, our politicians, our diplomats, private and public sector, our students. Thank you all very much. This program wouldn't have been possible if you didn't show up. We appreciate your patronage of our programs, and we look forward to seeing you here again and again. Thank you all, and do have a lovely evening.
Thank you to our chairperson for summarizing this lecture very beautifully, and also for appreciating the continuous contributions of the Alumni Association to the university. Please, let's appreciate all of them as we proceed. We are gradually drawing to a close, and please permit me to introduce a few people who have joined us this evening. Earlier on, we were joined by the Deputy Attorney General. I think he's left, Justice Ramsai. Please, even though he's not here, let's acknowledge the fact that he was here earlier on. We will also be joined by the Minister for Fisheries and Aquaculture, Honorable Emilia Arthur, who is here with us as well. Thank you, Madam, for making it this evening. My eyes have also caught, and I think the Vice Chancellor acknowledged him earlier on, a former Minister of State, Honorable Yao Osafo-Marfo. Thank you so much for being here as well. We've also been joined by some of our traditional rulers whom the Vice Chancellor acknowledged earlier on. We have a delegation from His Royal Majesty Otumfuo Osei Tutu II, and they are Mr. Daniel Owusu Bediako. If you are here, please, let's see you. Thank you very much for being here. Oh, Bafuo, okay, I didn't get that, the full name. Sorry about that. And then we also have Nana Afum Amwa Ejaku. Thank you so much for being with us. And Chiame Kunedu and Sroja. Thank you also for making it this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, I also like to acknowledge Osia Adeyo Kwesi Ekufu III, the Ekuapem Hene, who is here with us this evening. We also have with us Ehuna Bobrim Osuo Dumja Otutu Abebio the Fifth. I hope I pronounced it correctly. Who is the Nifahene who joined us this evening. Also with us is Nana Ajwa Esa Beye Man the First, who is the Joantua Hima of the Ekuapeme Buakwa. She's a member of the Alumni Council as well. Please let's acknowledge her as well. So we also have with us former Attorney General Honorable Joe Gate, who is also here with us. Please, if we can see you, we'd like to acknowledge you. Thank you very much for being here. Honorable Kwabene Japan, if you are here, please, can we see you as well? Thank you very much. We also have with us Mr. Frederick Emisa, who is the chairman of NLA. If you are here, please kindly give us a wave so we can acknowledge you. Also, a team from MTN. If the managing director, Mr. Stephen Blewett, is here, I would like to acknowledge you as well. And also, Mr. Henry Chinedu Owuzurigbo, MD for Zenith Bank. If you are here, please, or any representative, please, you are acknowledged as well. Earlier on, we also had the Honorable Sami Ewuku, who is the MP for Ikuapem North. I think he's also stepped out now. Mr. Moses Baden, who is the MD for Margins. If you are here, please, would like to acknowledge your presence if you are here with us. We were also joined by a team from Baffin Construction. If you heard earlier on, there's an ongoing as a construction of the center at the Alumni Center, a recreational center, which is being sponsored by our speaker for this evening. And so I'd like to acknowledge the Baffin construction team here, Edward Griffin and Paul Bafo-Bonny. If you are here, please, let's see you. Thank you very much. We want to acknowledge all the directors of KGL who are here. Please just give us a wave from where you are seated so that we can acknowledge you. We also have with us His Excellency Isaac Osei. If you are here, please kindly rise so that we can acknowledge you properly. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Accompanying the minister this evening, we would also like to receive Mr. Ebenezer Jetro, who is the clerk to the Parliament of Ghana. Thank you so much for also being here with us. Yes. I would like to also acknowledge a former Vice Chancellor, Emeritus Professor Ivan Adai-Mensah, who is always at our events. Prof, thank you so much for honoring the invitation to be here. Please also permit me to introduce former chairs of the University of Ghana Alumni Association who are here. I've been informed that we have the first chairman of the association, Mr. Yeboah Amoah. If you are here, please, can we see you? Please, let's acknowledge him. We also have with us Mr. Pakwesi Yankee, who is also now Chancellor of the Koforidua Technical University. Thank you for being here. And also Mr. Richard Okra. If you are here, please, can we see you? Thank you so much for being here. Let's acknowledge also the members of the University of Ghana Alumni Council. Please give us a wave. Thank you for the great job that you keep doing. We are most grateful that you were able to make it here. And last but certainly not the least, I would like to acknowledge our young people who are here with us, students from Machimota Senior High School and Presbyterian Boys Senior High School. Please, let's acknowledge them as well. Can you stand so that we can acknowledge you? Don't be shy. So these are our future. And when the presenter was speaking, he addressed them directly. Thank you so much for honoring our invitation to be here. We hope that you are going back to school with a lot of nuggets and a lot of encouragements to work harder. You may take your seats now. Thank you very much. So just in case I missed anyone here, please forgive me. We have a very long list here, but please know that you have been duly acknowledged, and we thank you so much for being here. But we'll take the... Okay. So I would like to thank all of you for making it this evening. We look forward to receiving you at future events of the University of Ghana Alumni Association and also generally events of the University of Ghana. Anytime you see us advertise any lecture or event, please feel free to attend. You are all important stakeholders of the university, and we look forward to welcoming you at our future events. I'd like to kindly ask that we rise for the university anthem. And as we rise, I just want to inform you that when we are done, we'll walk to the courtyard of the Great Hall, which is behind us, the main door, for some refreshments before you leave.
University of Ghana, the nation's hope and glory, the place
Please, we'll keep standing for the recession. We'd like to ask all the special invited guests of the speaker to please come to the alumni building to be refreshed. Thank you very much.